Good afternoon. This will be a country analysis over the Federal Republic of Nigeria, brought to you by myself, Antoinette Guillen, as project manager, Craig A. Conrad, Martin Javis, and Dahi Kim. Let's start with a country overview. Nigeria is located in Africa's western coast. It bordered by Chad to its east, Niger to the north, Benin and the Gulf of Guinea to the west, and Cameroon to its south. The name Nigeria comes from the river Niger that flows through the country. Its official coordinates are 10 degrees north by 8 degrees east. Nigeria's population is more than 190 million people as of 2017, making it the seventh largest country in the world, or 2.57% of the world population. Nigeria is sub-Saharan Africa's most populous nation. Um, Some of the most populated cities inside of Nigeria include Lagos at 13.4 million, Kano at 3.8 million, Ibadan at 3.8 million, the capital city of Abuja at 2.9 million, Port Harcourt at 2.3 million, and Benin City at 1.6 million. Nigeria's population density per square kilometer of land is 209.588 people. The median age for Nigerians is 18.4, and life expectancy within the country is 53.8 years old. On October 1st, 1960, Nigeria received its independence from British rule. Between that time and 1998, Nigeria remained under a military rule up until 1998, when they adopted a new constitution that allowed them to transition peacefully into a citizen-led government. Current political leaders inside of Nigeria include President Major General Buhari and Vice President Osinbajo. Both were inaugurated May 29th of 2015. President Buhari was born December 17, 1942 in Katsina State. President Buhari was under Nigeria's last military head of state, the General Sani Abacha. The people of Nigeria elected President Buhari because of his promises to rid the country of the Boko Haram and ISIS terrorists. Vice President Osinbajo is a law professor and senior advocate in Nigeria. As a spiritual leader, Osinbajo has organized various incentives that work towards social justice. He also organizes the Liberty Schools Project that provides free primary school education and free lunches to poor children throughout Nigeria. The current political ideology inside of Nigeria is based mostly off of the United States political system, in that it is operated under three branches: the executive branch that houses the president, the vice president, and their cabinet; the executive branch that houses the Senate and the House of Representatives; and the judicial that houses the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court justices. Nigeria has 36 states and one capital territory. Much like the United States, Nigeria holds elections every 4 years, and elected officials serve 4-year terms.
Hi, this is Tahe Kim. I'd like to present about the business practices in Nigeria. First, I will talk about the language and business language. Nigeria speaks many languages, such as English, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Fulani, and more than 500 additional languages. Among these languages, English is the official language. The British introduced English to Nigeria while the colonial ship. From there, it became the official languages. Also, business language is English. English is spoken in judicial system or formal communications within the governments and education by Nigerian. Now let's move on to literacy. According to Central Intelligence Agency, Nigeria's literacy rate is 59.6%, while the male literacy rate is 69.2%. For female is only 49.7%. The third thing I'd like to cover is working hours, lunchtime, and break time. The working hours in common job in Nigeria are 40 hours per week, but Nigerians' working hour time is different between the job type. The private company works from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They work on Saturday sometimes. But the government-owned company works from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. from Monday through Thursday. On Friday, they work from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. They have an hour lunch time. According to employment law in Nigeria, they need an hour break time per 6 hours of work. The last one that I'm gonna talk about is time zone and exchange rate. Nigeria is an hour ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, which is GMT. It is 7 hours from the Central Time of the America. There is no daylight saving time for Nigeria. And I will talk about the exchange rate a little bit. The naira is the currency of Nigeria. One US dollar was 363 naira in November 2nd, 2018.
Hi, this is Craig Conrad. Nigeria is the largest economy in the sub-Saharan Africa region and relies heavily on oil to interact with foreign entities and for government revenues. Despite economic growth and a 5% unemployment, 62% of all Nigerians remain in abject poverty. Mineral fuels, oil, and distillants make up 96% of Nigeria's entire export market with $42.7 billion. The next largest market, ships, boats, and other floating structures, make up less than 1% of the export market with $268.5 million. This sizable dependency on oil industry helped put Nigeria in a recession in 2016 when the price of oil on the world market took a dip in price. Nigeria's GDP is $1.1 trillion and comes with a 2.7% growth rate over the last year and a 3.4% growth rate over the last 5 years. Nigeria has a per capita GDP of $5,942, which equates to an estimated average monthly income of $494.17 per individual. These numbers are still a bit misleading because the government is still trying to eliminate duplicate workers and ghost workers from collecting multiple paychecks. Both practices deprive others of getting any paycheck and at the same time skew these GDP numbers. Nigerian import data was more or less flatlined from 1981 to 1995, but had a record low of 167 million Nigerian naira in 1984. Since 1995, the import has grown from approximately 200 million in imports to a present 594 billion. Nigerian top 3 import partners are China with $5.5 billion, Belgium with $4 billion, and the Netherlands with $2.8 billion of imports. Nigeria's top 3 import markets are mineral fuels, oils, and distillants at $8.7 billion, machinery, nuclear reactors, and boilers at $4.2 billion, and electronic equipment at $1.8 billion. Nigerian export data was also basically flatlined from 1981 to 1995, with an all-time low of 322 million Nigerian naira recorded in 1983. The volatility of exports have been a bit more extreme, with a huge fluctuation in 2009 with approximately 100 billion Nigerian naira to 2011 with a record high of 2.6 trillion Nigerian naira. Nigeria's top 3 export partners are India with $7.9 billion, the United States with $5.6 billion, and Spain with $4.4 billion of exports. And now we'll be covering Nigeria's competitiveness.
Currently, there are 43 federal universities in Nigeria and 47 state universities. There are also 75 privately owned universities in Nigeria. The Nigerian people believe that higher education is the key to better jobs. Unfortunately, the small number of universities make it impossible to satisfy the numbers of Nigerians who wish to attend. The Nigerian university system, its books, and its equipment are antiquated from between 40 and 60 years. This makes it very difficult for graduating Nigerian students to actually compete in the modern world. The Nigerian people are asking the government to invest more money in creating new universities and as well upgrading the current operating universities. The government is spending only minimum amounts of money in the university system. This is prompting Nigerian students to seek higher education abroad, and very rarely after graduation do they return home. Under the Nigerian Constitution, property rights are very strong. Although transferring property, the process is at times cumbersome and can be very expensive. In some parts of Nigeria, there are patriarchal societies which put a limit or try to limit the ownership of property by women. But the Nigerian Constitution is quite clear and absolute regarding property rights, and individuals can take their cases to the court, and the courts will nullify tradition in favor of the property rights of the individual. Nigeria has laws regarding the protection of intellectual property, but they have not been diligent about enforcing those laws. The Nigerian Copyright Commission is tasked with enforcing the Copyright Act of 1988. Businesses have been asking for an amendment to this act to create harsher penalty for intellectual property thieves. The Nigerian legal system is a combination of English, Islamic, and traditional law. The judiciary is independent. The Constitution protects and requires judges to be both fair and impartial, rendering their decisions based solely on their interpretation of the law and the evidence presented before them. The Supreme Court consists of 1 Chief Justice and 15 justices available for higher appeal. Also, in each of the 36 states, there is a federal court whose judges are appointed by the president. Although the Nigerian legal system is for the most part fair and impartial, getting things done through the government bureaucracy can be very slow. Telecommunications is widely used in Nigeria, although less than 1% of the population uses landlines. Between 75 and 80% of the population use cell phones. Nigeria has their own cell phone service providers. The top service providers for the Nigerian population are MTN, which services 40 million subscribers, Glo Mobile, 20 million subscribers, Airtel, 15 million subscribers, and Etisalat, 7 million subscribers. The internet is utilized by 84% of the Nigerian population. There are over 100 internet service providers in Nigeria. The top service providers are Cyberspace Limited, Netcom Africa Limited, SpectraNet Limited, IPNX Nigeria, and MTN Nigeria. Broadcast media, TV stations, radio stations, cable, satellite. Currently, all 36 Nigerian states broadcast from their own TV stations. The Nigerian government controls and operates 70 TV stations. Radio stations, the Nigerian government owns and operates 40 radio stations, and 20 radio stations are privately owned. Cable and satellite are accessible to the Nigerian people. Half of the Nigerian people are without electricity. Between 2000 and 2010, the government controlled all of the electricity in Nigeria through the National Electric Power Authority. Between 2010 and 2014, the government began privatizing that industry to where now there are 6 generating companies, 11 distribution companies, and 1 transmission company. The government is now considering investing in renewable energy to supplement their conventional power plants. Nigeria has 5 heliports and 54 airports, 40 of which are paved. Railways, 2,260 miles of railroad. Unfortunately, much of it is unusable as people have scavenged railroad parts for their own personal use. Roadways, over 120,000 miles of roadways, but only 18,600 miles of those roadways are paved. Waterways, 5,344 miles of waterways. Seaport, Bonny Inshore Terminal in Lagos. Recommendations. Nigeria really needs to modernize their universities, because right now the universities are kicking out students who are not prepared to compete with other university students in the world. Also, the government needs to invest in creating more colleges because there are many young people that wish to go to college, but there aren't enough universities so they can attend. Infrastructure. The colleges need to begin offering degree programs and pathways that are directly related to the infrastructure needs that Nigeria has, such as renewable energy, solar panels, solar panel creation, those type jobs. As well, Nigeria needs to cut a deal with foreign businesses, that there has to be a certain percentage of Nigerians that are employed by that company, and that the company also has to employ graduating college Nigerians into management positions in those companies. This way, if the company doesn't last and eventually leaves Nigeria, these Nigerians will have a particular skill that they garnered from the companies that they worked for. Thank you.
Healthcare inside of the country of Nigeria is considered to be one of the worst in the world. Nigeria had healthcare expenditures that were only 3.7% of its GDP in 2014. There were 0.38 physicians per every 1,000 in the population. Currently, there are 3.1 individuals in Nigeria living with AIDS. That ranks them number 2 in the world with the AIDS population. This is attributed to poor hygiene and access to contraceptives. Approximately 150 people die from the disease in Nigeria, making them the number 1 in the world for this. In Nigeria, they have a tier system as far as healthcare goes. It is also considered to be one of the most complicated systems in the world. There are 30,034 primary healthcare centers inside of Nigeria. These centers were designed to do preventative health care. Because of low access to funds and resources, they often end up doing life-saving care. If those situations cannot be helped in the primary care, they are sent to a secondary health care center, and there are only 3,839 of those centers inside of Nigeria. If the issue still proceeds to be worse, they are sent to a tertiary care center, and there are only 78 in the country of Nigeria. In conclusion, it is without a doubt that Nigeria is a leading regional player, not only in West Africa, but in the world, with the largest oil reserves. Sadly, oil-rich Nigeria experiences extreme poverty, poor infrastructure, a slow and inefficient judicial system, inadequate power supply, massive corruption, and insecurity. However, the current administration is developing strategies to address all of these things and boost the living standard of all Nigerians. Through advancements in family planning and food safety education, Nigeria is striving to improve the overall health of its population. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed learning. Thank you.